there, and thanks for joining me today. My name is Deepa Robbins from DeeZinesByD, and today I have a bunch more Christmas cards to share with you. So lately, I've been basically churning out a whole bunch of Christmas cards, and I've been thinking of different styles and ways to do a few cards at a time so that I'm not just creating one type of one card, and I have a bit of variation. So for today, I want to focus on this watercolor set by Arteza. It's a metallic watercolor set. So it looks really nice on dark cardstocks, but I want to show you what it looks like on dark and white cardstock so you can kind of see the difference. And I'm then going to be highlighting these cards with die cut focal points. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is the set I was talking about. It is 24 pans and it's a metallic watercolor paint. So it's really nice. It comes with a water brush. I actually have my own that I'm going to use, but it's a typical water brush. You kind of fill it with your water here in the compartment, attach it to the actual brush, and you just kind of push on it in order to allow the water to come down into the bristles. So these are the ones that I'm going to be using. I already have them ready to go and filled with water. And this set comes with, it actually has like a color chart for you. So you can just fill those in. And these are what all the little pans look like. I did kind of open this a bit earlier. You can take this whole piece out here. And I want to show you how I kind of put these together. So it has these little labels wrapped around. All you have to do is kind of pull them off. And then instead of just tossing them, I kind of ripped off the little edges and kept the piece that tells you exactly what the watercolor is. That way I can still identify them and I know exactly what I'm using and I know what to tell you, right? So once I did all of that, this is what the final product looks like. There are so many nice little colors. I'll just show you how I did this here. So I just want to take the color chart and add some of the actual watercolor paint. Once I've done that, I basically move the paint into the water portion and it kind of just mixes the color, creating a bit of a gradient in between. And this just helps you to see the color on that cardstock. So they actually provide you with the black and the white. And once you finish this, they actually look really nice and it just gives you like a nice palette to sort of pick from. So as you can see, these are what the colors look like on the white cardstock and then on the black. And I have to say that I'm really blown away by the way that they look on the black. It is just so nice and shimmery and the colors just really stand out compared to the white. They still look good on the white, don't get me wrong, but I personally prefer the black. Anyways, so I'm going to start making my splatter backgrounds, and first of all I'm going to start off with some dark blue or navy cardstock. As I said, I think that these colors look really good on dark colors, so I'm going to use this dark cardstock so you can kind of see. I'm going to start off with some silver, diamond, white, bronze, and gold, and I'm just going to use my acrylic block to splatter this all over the place. So what I found is that when I actually just tap my water brush, it actually creates nice big droplets. And then when I use the acrylic block, I get a bit more of the fine droplets. So I used a combination of both techniques. It's really up to you what you want to do. And then I added a bit more gold at the end here. So what I wanted to do was just have a variation of different colors and have that shimmery pigment of the watercolor kind of come through in the end. So as you can see, this is how that panel turns out. I also made a few more. This one was with the frosty blue, iridescent green, and silver. And that's on the white. And then I did another panel on white using iridescent pink, diamond white, glowing peach, and ballerina pink, which is this one here. And then finally I did one more darker panel using some iridescent green, ballerina pink, diamond white, and frosty blue. So this panel here is actually the most dry. You can see once it dries you get those darker colors of the panel being wet drying away. So I'm going to move on and create my little die cut elements. I'm using this set from Spellbinders, which is the Glimmer Poinsettia, and I'm actually going to use that glimmer plate to do some dry embossing on top of my die cut. Now I'm trying here to put it through my sidekick using my acrylic pads, but this is not the way to do it. What you want to do is use an embossing plate. I don't actually have one for my sidekick here, so I'm going to take this and do it on my big shot. So what you want to do is use your plate, set up your cardstock and your your glimmer plate, and then put your shim, the embossing shim, on top and put that through your die cutting machine. And that's the final result that you get there, which is really, really nice. So I'm going to move on to the sentiment. I'm going to be using the Spellbinders Elegant Holiday Glimmer sentiments throughout all my creations today. I'll be glimmering most, if not all, of my sentiments from here in different colors of foil. And I've cut this into a bit of a sentiment strip, a thicker strip, and what I want to do is create a bit of like a band to go across my card. So to highlight this strip, I'm adding some silver cardstock on either edge as a little bit of like a lip or a bit of a border, and it just kind of makes the strip stand out just a bit more on top of the background. So I'll add those strips and cut off the edges. So I use a lot of Sizzix Opulent cardstock. Like all of the cardstocks basically I'm using here are from Sizzix. So I'll just mention that. I use a lot, like a crap load of products in this video. So I will mention that on my blog, I do have everything listed and everything linked for you for the most part. If I have missed anything, please let me know. I'll let you know where I've got it from. Just leave me a little message in the comments and I'll definitely let you know. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these little mistletoe elements. I cut them out of Sizzix Opulent cardstock. One was from the white glitter cardstock, and that pinky one is actually from Rose Gold Die Cuts with a View cardstock. So I'm just going to add these there as a bit of interest just at the bottom there. I felt like it wasn't enough just having the poinsettia, and I like all these little branchy elements sticking out from behind it, which just adds a bit more flair, and I think it just adds a bit more interest to your card, especially if you're just going to keep it a bit plain in the background like what I'm doing. Like I'm just highlighting the splatter, and the splatter is highlighting the color, which I'm bringing out with all the die cuts. So that's the basic idea of these cards today. So I added some more little leaves in the background, and because I have a lot of rose gold here, I decided to do these in just plain white cardstock. Then I have these little, I guess they're kind of like spruce or fir type elements, branches, and these are from the Spellbinders Ornament set. It's a glimmer set which also has dies in it. Now I also created another card which was essentially the same as this, so I'm not going to go through everything with you, but I will show you what it looked like once I was done with all the little die cuts. I added a few more pieces around the poinsettia, and I did add a sub-sentiment which also belongs to the same large sentiment set that I'm using on all of these cards. So that's that blue one there. So now for this background, I actually used a cover plate. I used the Pinkfresh Studio Diagonal Stitch Plaid die. Now, it's important to note here that this cover plate will cut out your piece, and I have a panel that's a bit larger than this, so what I had to do was line it up with the edges, put it through my die cutting machine halfway, not all the way, otherwise it would cut half of it off, and then I flipped it over and did the same thing halfway so that it basically created the background but didn't cut my piece. Then I glimmered the ornament and the sentiment in the middle there using the Spellbinders ornament set, which I showed you. And I also used the Christmas organic foliage set to glimmer a bunch of little elements. So I have like a couple little poinsettias and all these little foliage pieces that I'm going to use to decorate the ornament. So I'll use my foam squares to add a bit of dimension with the ornament there. This also helps me lift that piece up a little bit so that it's easier for me to tuck all these little foliage pieces into the back without having to kind of lift it up and re-glue and things like that. Now, I've mentioned this before, I use foam squares, and these foam squares are from Amazon. I will link them in my blog. They're not that thick, so even if you're going to use these cards and put them through the mail, you don't really have to worry about too much dimension that's going to cost you extra postage or that's going to get it crushed in the mail. So I'll continue to add all these little elements around that ornament as I see fit. There's a couple more little foliage pieces here, and then I think I'll add like a little poinsettia. I think I moved it to the side here, but I'll put that on later. Now, to finish this off, I do need to add some string to sort of show that this ornament's hanging. So I have this silver twine that I'm using, and I'm just going to kind of double it up and then stick it behind the ornament with some foam tape. Once I do have the string kind of fastened behind the ornament, I will pull it around to the back and then fasten that string with some washi tape or any type of adhesive to make sure that it stays in place. Now, I do want to take this quick second to just say I'm really sorry about this video. Because it's a bit of a longer video, my software seems to be struggling. I think I might need to do an update. And so if my audio doesn't match my visual completely, I'm really, really sorry. Please bear with me. So there's that little poinsettia I mentioned, and I'm going to move on to the next card. So I'm using this Christmas tree, and this is from an old set from Spellbinders called Frankie Goes to the North Pole. It was a small die of the month for November 2020, and all I did was cut out the Christmas tree branches using some rose gold and some silver cardstock. So what I wanted to do here was to make this Christmas tree a bit taller. So what I did was I attached one tree to the bottom of the first tree and then added the other branches intermittently in between to sort of just mix the colors. And what I'm doing here is sort of just getting a framework of my tree, and then I will build up the brushiness or like fill it in when I actually put it on my card. So now you can see I basically have a larger skeleton that I can use on my card. So let's go ahead and assemble that. I do assemble it in much the same way as the first two cards, so I won't go over all of that. I am creating that band that goes along the center of my card, and I'll use my T-square ruler to basically just line it up and make sure that it's straight, and then I will cut off any of the overhanging bits on the sides. So that's an important point to note with these cards, especially if you're making a panel kind of like what I'm doing here with my sentiment that goes across your card. You really have to make sure that they're straight. Here I'm using the T-square ruler, but for most of them I just lined it up with the grid lines on my glass mat, and that seemed to be good enough. And because you are using those foam squares, you can easily just kind of pull them off and stick them down to the right place to make sure that they're straight. Now, before I can put my Christmas tree on, I do have to put that sub-sentiment that I have, and I'm just going to use some tiny foam squares to pop that up and stick that on there. Once that's nice and good, I can cut off any overhanging pieces and then work on my Christmas tree. So as you can see here, this creates a nice long Christmas tree, unlike the original die that comes with the set. So as you can see, I've added this little star on the top of the Christmas tree. It's just my little pop of gold, and this is a metallic matte gold. And now I'm going to build up my Christmas tree. So by this, I want to fill in that center area so that that blue color is not showing anymore. So how I'm going to do this is I'm basically going to take all these little branches. I've cut them apart from that actual Christmas tree frame, and I'm just adding them in a crisscross fashion. So I'll add one a little bit to the left and then the other one, I guess a little bit more to the right, but just so that they cross over top of each other. And this is what's going to cover up the cardstock in the background from showing through. And then another point that I do want to make is that I'm actually adding glue to just the tips, to the very tips of those branches, and I'm attaching it. So I'm not gluing the whole branch down. That way it kind of lifts up at the end, and that creates a bit of dimension and adds to the brushiness of the tree, which makes it look more like a Christmas tree, even though it is a non-traditional tree and it's in silver and rose gold metallic colored cardstocks. So I'll go ahead and continue to do this. And then once I'm done building up the main center of the tree, I'll build up the bottom just a little bit because I'm actually not going to be adding like a base to the Christmas tree like most trees do have. This set does come with a base, but I just didn't add it because it's like one long piece that goes behind. So here I'm just adding those little pieces in the bottom there, and that just fills up the bottom of the tree and completes it. And that's what that one looks like. So now I'm going to embellish my cards, and to do this I'm going to be using these lolly bead gems. Now I use this for all of my projects, and they're actually nail art gems. You can get these from Amazon. I know they're readily available from Canada. I'm pretty sure they're available in the US, but I will link them in my blog so you can kind of take a look at them. They come in so many different colors. I'm going to be using some rose gold, some clear, some AB color gems here. And it just really adds like a nice sheen, and it makes your designs pop. So I will use some Pink Fresh Studio Jewels for this blue card here because they have these really nice light blue gems, which I don't have in the lolly beads. I know they are available, I just don't have them. And this just helps bring out that nice blue of the poinsettia here and the blue foil as well. So now I'll move on to this ornament card. In the same sense, I'm adding these little gems. For this, I chose some rainbow or AB color gems so that it picks up the different colors of the blue that I have on here. And I just basically did the same thing on all of the cards for all of the decorations. As I've mentioned, these embellishments are really nice and they just add that extra little bit to your cards. Once you start using them, you'll definitely get addicted, and I think that's my habit too. And I'm also a bit of a lazy embellisher in the sense that I just kind of put my glue dots down all over the place and then I just add the gems wherever. I know a lot of people kind of plan out where they want their gems and then they kind of pick them up and put the glue underneath, but I always find that just takes me too long. So I just kind of like this, take my glue and put it wherever I want it, and then I just stick on the gems that I want. So now that I have all of my embellishments done, I'll move on to the inside of the cards. So I'll be using this Build-A-Flower poinsettia from Altenew set. I'm going to be using this in some Morning Frost and some blush inks. These are also by Altenew. And I'm just going to stamp the corners of my cards to just add a bit of interest in a bit of a watermark kind of fashion. That's why I'm using the lighter colored inks. So here now when I add the blush as that detail, it makes that poinsettia look really, really nice. And then I'm going to do the same with the blue card using some polar bear ink. So this makes that blue kind of stand out in the poinsettia, which is not traditional at all, but none of these cards are traditional. I'm basically just going with the whole metallic theme and using that throughout on the inside and on the fronts. So now here I'm turning the cardstock because I want to do the top corner. And I noticed that it's not going to fit in my MISTI properly. So because of this, I'm using the creative corners that you can buy separately to go with your MISTI. I'm sorry, I'm actually using the Tonic Tim Holtz stamp positioner, but I'm using the MISTI inserts from the MISTI because I also have the MISTI that I use sometimes. And this just helps you create a bit of space between your card and the sides so you can fit any stamps overhanging off the edges without them being ruined or crushed or just not fitting at all. So I will continue to stamp out these poinsettias in the same fashion as I did before. And I have to make sure to put those little rulers or guides back in place to stamp out that blue poinsettia as well. So now I'm going to use the Altenew Brilliant Bauble set, and I'm going to stamp out some ornaments for that card that had the ornament on the front panel. So I'm using some Morning Frost, Icy Blue, and Polar Bear inks. I've done the background layer with the Morning Frost color to create a nice background. And then I'm using the blue in those two tones in order just to create in order to create a bit of variation in the ornaments. And once I stamp those out, you'll see that you get like two different colors there, which looks really nice. Now to add the little details, I actually used some Encore metallic ink, and these are just going to stamp out all the little dots and the little details on the ornaments. And once that's complete, I have the little toppers to go on top of the ornament. Sorry, my head gets in the way here because I am actually keeping it on my stamp positioner, but I'm using my little acrylic blocks to stamp down these little tops of the ornaments. Then I have this Brilliance Pearlescent Blue ink. So again, this is a pigment ink, but it has a shimmer component to it. So these are going to be for my little bows that I'm going to add to the top of these ornaments. And then all I have left to do is the string. So I'm using my Pigma Archival Black ink pen in order to create the strings. The set does come with an actual string stamp, but they weren't long enough for my card, so I figured using this marker pen would just be simpler. And you can see by lining this up and making sure I've got straight lines with these strings and making sure that I'm drawing them behind certain baubles creates a lot of dimension, and it makes some of the ornaments look like they're closer and some further away. So now I'm going to move on to the last card and use this Altenew Sketched Evergreen set. I'll be using the same colors. I'm using Morning Frost and then the next darker color in that set, which is the Evening Gray ink. I'm going to stamp both of those layers out. And then I'm also going to add the little stand at the bottom with some of that metallic silver ink. And then there's also a little stamp that makes like just like a little bit of a shadow underneath the tree. I'm going to add that as well in some of that Morning Frost ink. So you can see once that's complete, it makes like a nice little picture on the inside that's not too vibrant that it will take away from my sentiment. So as always, I'm using this All to New Blessing stamp set, and I'm going to stamp out all of my sentiments using some black VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink. Now I want to show you here that I have a sentiment from the All to New Build-A-Flower Poinsettia set, and I just want that Merry Christmas. So I'm actually just cutting out the Wishing You a sentiment, and you can always reattach that if ever you do want to use it in the future. This is just a nifty little trick you can use to not have to mask your sentiments. So I'm just going to stamp this out in the various coordinating colors of all of the card insides. This one is using that blush ink. And then again, I'm going to use the polar bear ink for the blue ones to get a nice blue color and kind of match the rest of the card. It just coordinates everything. And I actually really like this Merry Christmas scripty font. So I'm going to use it for like all of my Christmas cards going forward. Now, also to add some pizzazz on the inside of your card, since I don't want to be using any gems which might deform the card when it goes through the mail, I'm using some stickles in different colors here in order to just highlight different areas on the card. On one of my cards, I actually had a little bit of a mess up, and the stickles just help cover that up and just make it look like, you know, you meant to put that there. So once I put all my cards together, these were the final pictures of them. The ornament card, very nice. The inside with those little baubles looks really nifty. Then we have this nice poinsettia card, which has a bunch of dimension and shine with those soft colors inside. And in the same fashion, we have the same type of card, but in the rose gold, which is also really nice. And then the final card that we made, which is the Christmas tree, has a lot of splatter and dimension. And you can see how these cards have such a nice effect, but look very different in terms of how that splatter turns out. So these were the cards that I have to share with you today. Go ahead and head on over to my blog and check out all of the inspiration over there, along with all of the supplies I used, which are linked there very meticulously. I make sure and I try and do my best to link everything there. And if you liked my video, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Maybe you want to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell for any videos that I may post in the future. I once again do want to apologize for all the choppiness of the audio in this video. I am having such a time with my computer, and I hope that I can fix it before I make the next video for you guys. As always, I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I hope you were inspired to make something similar. Have a great day, and I hope to see you again next time. Thanks. Bye.